Hello everybody and welcome to another Walking Dead video. Today we will be doing my rewrites for The Walking Dead Season 3. And as last time, there are rules that I have to abide by. I have to somewhat stick to the story and stick close to the story of the show to avoid it becoming straight up just fan fiction. So if I don't like something, I can kind of ignore it or change it a little, but I can't just replace it with something like drastically different. I can't be like, oh, I don't like all of season 3, screw the prison arc, we're going to do something completely different, or we're going to skip all the way forwards to this point. I have to kind of go through it slightly. Also, if an actor stated they wanted to leave the show at any point, as Dale did in season 2, the actor, or Andrew Lincoln in season 9, when I get to that point, or what I did in season 2, I have to still write off the character. I have to still get rid of that character. I cannot just ignore it and be like, okay, I'm keeping Rick around. No, Rick and Andrew Lincoln left the show, so I have to get rid of him when I get to that point. Okay, I can't just make it fanfiction, so it's all here to stop me from doing fanfiction. To make it slightly different though, I am adding to say that all changes I make throughout each rewrite, I can carry on to the next season. So as I made the big changes back in season 2, the big changes were that this is only going to take place 3 months later, not 9 like it did between season 2 and season 3. And Andrea, this is the biggest change, and it does change quite a bit. Andrea stayed with the group at the end of season 2. She didn't get like split off, so we're going into this season with Andrea a part of the group. So let's jump right into my rewrite. So episode 1, this episode is the same. The only difference is that Andrea is with them and it's 3 months after, so that's basically the same. Episode 2 is almost exactly the same, but Andrea is kind of taking more Daryl's roles, as we had kind of Daryl with Rick dealing with the prisoners. No, it's Andrea doing that instead, so Andrea's taking a lot of Daryl's stuff. Now on to episode 3. This episode's kind of a mixed mash of 2 different episodes. So episode 3's main plot will be the main plot of episode 4, so we will be having Laurie's death, Jewis' birth, and T-Dog's death, all in this episode, and that everything with that plot will be exactly the same. The differences will be the subplot, which will be when we meet Michonne and when we meet the governor. So what happened in episode 3 in the show will be the subplot in this kind of rewrite. The reason why it's a subplot is because there's no Andrea, there's no one from Michonne to talk to other than the governor, so there's no point to have it as a whole episode. So it'll be a subplot where we meet the governor and he is showing Michonne around Woodbury, and it will kind of end the same with the governor shooting up the soldiers and stuff like that. And we'll get questions with Michonne asking about, hey Merle, how'd you lose your arm? And we can get Merle's one-sided account of what really happened. So Michonne goes in having this very skewed opinion of Rick, thinking he's actually quite a dangerous person. Moving on to episode 4, this will follow the plot of episode 5 with some changes, and Rick still goes crazy and everything, but in the show, we have Glenn try and help Rick and try and snap him out of it. Now that'd be Andrea in this point, because I want to start off this Andrea romance with Rick quite early on. So I am going to have Andrea and Rick interact quite a lot. So we have Andrea trying to help Rick. The differences will be that there'll be 2 subplots. The one subplot will be to do with Daryl needing to go get supplies for baby Judith and Herschel still. And Glenn will go with him because Daryl will take more charge, and he'll be like, okay, I need you with me, Glenn, because you're fast on your feet. So we'll have a subplot with them going to scavenge for supplies, and then we'll have another subplot with Michonne and the governor, and Michonne figuring out everything's wrong with Woodbury. So this would start with Michonne being shown the battle arena that we got at the end of the episode, but it'd be a start of this episode. So Michonne will see this and they're going to show her, and Michonne will be so appalled the next day she'll kill off a bunch of captured walkers, and then this would lead to some drama and conflict between Michonne and the governor, and the episode would end with this plot with Michonne just escaping and walking out, which would really annoy the governor. Now let's move on to my episode 5 rewrites, and this episode is basically the plot of episode 6. So it starts the same with Michonne being hunted down by Merle, and that's kind of the main plot. We also get Crazy Rick as a subplot, but because I want Andrea as a bigger role, Andrea's going to take Herschel scenes, because Herschel is still hospitalized, still bedridden, because I haven't had Daryl and Maggie and Glenn come back here. They are still out for their search, and that'll be another plot with them kind of out scavenging still. The differences will be that there'll be zero governor romance, because I thought that was really bad in the show, and I didn't like it. So there's no one for the governor romance, so we won't see the governor in this episode. We might see him at the start to be like, Merle, get Michonne, but that's about it. We will see zero governor. Because Daryl is still out looking for supplies, Carl is going to be the one to find Carol, but he finds her completely differently. Carl is worried about his dad because he just lost his mum, so he runs off into the prison to try and find him. Instead, he finds a walker bang its door, and then he will find Carol. The big changes, though, will be right at the end, and that will be that Michonne, being chased by Merle, enters into this building, and Merle doesn't know she's into the building, so he goes around the front, and Michonne bumps into Daryl, and you get that very intense scene between these two characters, because Daryl's just walked into a stranger with a katana, so they've all got their weapons up, standing at each other, and then they hear a gunshot, and they look out the window, they run to the gunshot, and they see that Merle has Maggie and Glenn, and he takes them to the car, and he drives off with them, and abducts those two people. Michonne is like, he's not with me, and Daryl's like, well, you actually sure? And the episode would end with Daryl taking Michonne back to the prison, and that's how she finds the prison instead of just stumbling across it like she does in the show. Daryl takes her back because Michonne said she could help him. Episode 6 will follow the premise of episode 7 of the show, so it will start with Merle and the governor torturing Glenn, and we'll have those torture scenes going through the entire episode. The plot will be slightly different though, because Daryl is the one to bring Michonne back, so Rick has more agency to help Michonne. We don't get that, will Rick save her or not? Is Rick just going to torture and kick her out? Rick finds out very early on from Daryl that Michonne knows what's happened to Glenn and Maggie, and Rick makes a high priority to help Michonne, and we will get a slightly different dynamic that we did in the show, in this like kind of rewrite, because Rick is doing all he can to help Michonne. However, because Michonne was given that one-sided account from Merle, she is a bit dodgy about Rick. She knows she can't trust Merle, but she's heard bad things about Rick, so we get some resistance still, where Rick is trying to give all he's got and help. Even though he's slightly crazy, he needs to help Glenn and Maggie. Michonne's got that slight resistance. This episode will end, however, with Glenn losing his hand. In the show they only threatened it, but to prove the governor is evil, the governor will go back in right at the end of this episode and cut off Glenn's hand. In this episode we'll also see more of Herschel, just because he's been treated now, so this is when we'll start to see Herschel again since episode 2. Episode 7 is the same as episode 8 of the show, but there are slightly differences. First of all, Andrea doesn't go with the group. She stays back at the prison, and because she stays back at the prison, she's the one to find Tyrese's group, not Carl. Carl's there to help, but Andrea's the one to find Tyrese's group, and she kind of takes leadership. She brings them back, and we kind of get a more of a welcome with Andrea being in charge, with Herschel bickering to her. And we get more of a dynamic between those two, where Andrea's taking some more charge, and she's like, we need to bring him into our group, and Herschel's like, no, Rick's in charge. We get those type of scenes. This episode ends slightly differently though, and that is that Daryl is the reason that Michonne doesn't kill the governor, because Michonne's about to do it, but Daryl comes in and is like, we need to get out of here now, or else you're not going to be escape. And he convinces her, and as they try and escape, Daryl gets caught. Episode 8 will follow episode's 9 story pretty much right until Rick gets back to the prison. And once he's back at the prison, we'll have a lot of a bigger scene, and more of the episode will be dedicated to what happens with Tyrese's group. This is because Andrea will be on the complete opposite scale to Rick. Andrea wants to keep him, well, Rick doesn't. Even though Rick is crazy, Andrea's trying to keep him around. And this will kind of end with a big fight and argument between Andrea and Rick. And Andrea being like, I can't deal with Rick anymore, he's crazy. And Andrea will leave with Tyrese's group. And that'll be the end of the episode. After Rick saved Daryl, after more fighting, it will be Andrea leaves the group. Episode 9 will have a plot about the governor trying to plan an attack. In the show we kind of had that scene where the governor's like, I'm not planning an attack, and we have Andrea kind of dealing with the aftermath. We have none of that in this because Andrea's not at Woodbury. So we just have our governor straight up planning an attack. And this will be a plot we see throughout the entire episode. It starts with it and the episode will end with the fight. But the main part of this episode will be Daryl and Merle just leaving the prison and trying to be on their own, and then eventually coming back. And that'll just be a bigger, more expanded thing, and it'll be more of those two characters. So that'll be the most of the episode will be Daryl and Merle, and you have those two bookend bits, and eventually in the bits in the middle with the governor slowly planning his attack, and then his big attack at the end. We'll also get a small scene or two with Maggie and Glenn dealing with the aftermath of what happened to them, and Glenn having to deal with only having one hand now. That'd be like a small part, a very small plot, or like a plot C, but it'd be an important story. So we won't have like we do in the show where Glenn storms off. He can't do that anymore. We'll have maybe Maggie thinking about storming off because she's so mad. She did what the governor asked, and the governor still cut off Glenn's hand. So we kind of Maggie taking Glenn's role and storming off just for the attack, just to come back. That's what's going to happen in episode 9. Episode 10 will take place immediately after episode 9, and we'll get the first scene will be about Herschel shouting at Rick saying he needs to do more, he needs to be better, and this will get through to Rick after some shout because Herschel, he's just been hospitalised or bedridden, and he's just gotten out of bed, and the first thing that happens is he gets attacked, and he just wails on Rick. This man's got one leg, but he's going at Rick, and this gets through to Rick, and the whole first plot, two plots in this episode will be that clear. Episode 12 will be Rick, Michonne and Carl goes back to their hometown to go get guns, and this will be meet Morgan again, and that episode will be basically the same. However, I'll condense it slightly, get rid of a bit of fluff, and it'll be more direct because we'll have a plot B which will be about Andrea and Tyrese's group looking for something else. It'll be a lot of them just walking around the woods until they stumble across the governor's little friend, and they end up going to Woodbury right at the end of the episode. Because Andrea left immediately after basically Rick came back, Andrea doesn't know about the governor really much. She never went to Woodbury. She doesn't know what Woodbury looks like, so she doesn't know that she's at Woodbury at the end of the episode. And right at the end of the episode, something slips up where Tyrese mentions, oh, we were at this prison at some point and this crazy guy kicked us out, and that will snap in the governor's head, and the governor will think they are all used to be part of Rick's group and arrest all of them and imprison all of them. And the episode will end with Andrea and Tyrese's group being arrested by the governor after them being kind of shown around. And that one little sentence changed the governor's like, I'm going to be all officer friendly to, nah, take them away, we can torture them for later. This episode will also be slightly different because I'm going to have Morgan joins Rick's group. Morgan is still clear Morgan, but Rick gets through to him, and Morgan's like, okay, I'll just come back with you. You seem a bit crazy yourself. And the episode ends with Morgan joining Rick's group. Now, my real episode 11, this is where things really get mixed up. Because there is no Andrea to set up the Rick and Governor meeting that we got on the show, that really can't happen. So this episode will be a mix of episode 13 and 15 at the same time. So because there's no Andrea and Rick is slightly crazy, Rick thinks that if he kind of sets up a fake meeting with the governor, he can trap him, just end it all here and there. So what they plan to do is that Merle will be used to set up a meeting with the governor and be like, okay, can you go set us? Rick wants to talk. And they'll meet up together and there'll be a slight bit of talking, and maybe the governor mentions that, oh yeah, I've got Andrea, and he teases Rick being like, oh yeah, I've already killed her and all those people you kicked out. This will kind of send Rick, who's still slightly over the edge, off, and this will start a big fight between them. The governor knows this trap, that's why he said it, and it starts the fight between them. The fight will be not going well for Rick's group as he doesn't have as many people. Morgan might be there, Daryl might be there, but Glenn's not there anymore. You might have Maggie. He has a lot of injured people, so he has a smaller force, so he's actually losing the fight. And this is when Merle and the governor have a fight together. They get a one-on-one, and then the governor kills Merle. And after that, everyone has to retreat. Rick retreats and the governor wins the fight. The episode will end with Daryl going back to the battleground later on, like an hour or 2 days later, and he will find Merle dead. And it will end with Merle being put down by Daryl, and that's the end of the episode. And moving on to my review of episode 12. This episode is kind of a mix of episode 14 with Andrea trying to escape the governor, but this will be about Andrea and Sasha trying to escape the governor after being captured in episode 10. All the other characters that were with Tyrese's group have been killed already through torturing, so the only ones left are Tyrese, Andrea, and Sasha. So the episode will start with Andrea and Sasha escaping Woodbury. And this episode will be about them trying to outrun the governor while the governor's hunting them down. And they're trying to get back to the prison to be like, Rick, we're alive, help us, or Rick, can you help us? Because they don't know what's happened. All they know is the governor is not very mad, is not very happy, okay? So after Rick's attack on and his attempt on his life, the governor went back and he just kind of killed more people, and he's basically brutally tortured Tyrese. Tyrese is not in this episode very much because he can't walk. Tyrese is the one who got all the torture. That's why it's only Andrea and Sasha in this episode. However, at the end of this episode, the governor will capture Andrea and Sasha again, but in this episode, because he got no weapons or anything, and because the governor's throwing walkers at them, Sasha was bit in the attempt to escape, and the governor knows this, and he captures them both still, and he takes them back to Woodbury together while Sasha's been bit, and that's the end of the episode. Now we're at episode 13, and this will be the season finale, and this will be the last episode in the season. So this episode will start with the governor torturing Tyrese, and then he will take Tyrese to where he's keeping Andrea and the bitten Sasha, and this is where he will stab Tyrese and throw him into the cell with a tied up Andrea. And basically the subplot will be about who's going to turn first, who's going to die first, Sasha or Tyrese, who's going to kill Andrea. That's the subplot of the episode. But the main plot with the governor attacking the prison and Rick and fighting the governor is all exactly the same as in the show. There'll be no differences there. However, once Rick gets to Woodbury and takes out Woodbury and he finds Andrea, he will see that Sasha has turned, but Andrea was able to escape in time and kill Sasha. Both Andrea and Tyrese will survive the events of what happened in the subplot, and the ending with Rick taking the survivors from Woodbury back to the prison is all the same. And that is my rewrites for Season 3 of The Walking Dead. I have changed a few things here and there. In the start, the first couple of episodes, I didn't really change much, but the changes got really big when I realised that Andrea is very needed for the back half of the season. After the attack, Andrea sets up quite a lot. So that was quite a struggle, but what do you think about my rewrites? Did you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? Do you think the pacing's a little bit? I've shortened the episodes. It's always my kind of goal to shorten the episodes and get rid of those kind of fluff episodes. So I've kind of shortened it, made some little tweaks. Please tell me what you think about my rewrites. Do you think it's superior? Do you think it's worse? Do you think it's just the same? Do you like my idea of killing off Sasha and having Andrea survive? Or do you think Sasha's too important? I've ruined myself. I've screwed myself for any future rewrites. Please tell me down below what you think. And this is it for me today. So look on the screen if you want more Walking Dead content. If you want to see my Season 2 rewrites, look on the top left. If you want anything else, look on the screen. Feel free to subscribe for any more content. If you want more rewrites, make sure to subscribe so you can see my Season 4 and 5 coming later on. But this is it for me today. So goodbye, peace out, and I'll talk to you at a later date.